Today, we're diving into a single event from 1917. It's a story that didn't just transform a man named Gandhi, it really changed the entire direction of India's fight for freedom. This is the story of Champaran. And who better to set the stage than the man himself? Years later, in 1942, Gandhi looked back and pointed to this specific year as the moment everything shifted for him. So what on earth happened in 1917? Well, our story doesn't kick off with some grand political speech or a huge protest. Nope. It all starts with the quiet, stubborn determination of one single peasant. So picture this. It's a massive political convention. And in the middle of it all, Gandhi is approached by this man, Rajkumar Shukla. He's a sharecropper, described as poor and emaciated, from a place called Champaran, a place Gandhi had literally never even heard of. But Shukla, he has this story of deep injustice, and he is convinced that Gandhi is the only person who can help. Now, Shukla wasn't just persistent, he was absolutely resolute. He followed Gandhi all over the country for weeks, from Lucknow all the way to his ashram. He just would not take no for an answer, constantly begging him, fix a date, and finally, totally impressed by this guy's tenacity, Gandhi agrees. When they finally arrive in Bihar, this incredible scene happens. They're at the home of a very prominent lawyer, who would later become the first president of India, by the way, and the servants see Gandhi with the poorly dressed Shukla and just assume he's another peasant. They were actually worried he might be an untouchable and pollute their well. It's just such a stark snapshot of the world Gandhi was about to step into. But here's the thing about Gandhi. Before taking any action, his first step was always the same. Get the facts. He needed to conduct a meticulous investigation to really understand the truth of the situation. So what was this big injustice all about? Well, it was this system. Under a really old contract, peasants were forced to plant indigo, a cash crop for the British landlords, on the best 15% of their land. And then they had to give the entire harvest away as rent. The whole thing. Okay, now here's where the whole scheme gets truly cynical. Germany develops synthetic indigo, which basically makes the natural indigo crop worthless. So you'd think the landlords would just end the contracts, right? Wrong. They went to the illiterate peasants and told them they had to pay compensation to be released from an arrangement that was now totally useless to the landlords anyway. Unbelievable. So Gandhi tries to get the official side of the story, but the doors are just slammed in his face. The Landlords Association tells him he's an outsider and won't give him any information. And the British commissioner, he straight up tries to bully him, telling him to leave the district. Now. And this is where a simple investigation suddenly turns into a direct confrontation with the full might of the British government in India. Did Gandhi leave? Of course not. He did the exact opposite. He just calmly continued his journey right into the heart of the district, to the capital, Motihari. And by now, several lawyers were so inspired, they decided to join him. While he's on his way to investigate a report about a peasant being mistreated, Gandhi is stopped. A police messenger rides up and hands him an official government order. The demand is blunt, absolute. Leave Champaran immediately. And right here, this is the turning point. Gandhi takes the notice, he signs the receipt to show he got it, and then he writes a simple note on it. He would disobey the order. With that one little sentence, he's basically inviting his own arrest. He's setting the stage for a massive showdown. And sure enough, he gets a summons to appear in court the very next day. That simple act of defiance, it lit a fuse. It led to something extraordinary, the first real major victory for a brand new form of resistance in modern India, civil disobedience. The next morning, the scene in Motihari was just wild. The whole town was black with people, thousands upon thousands of peasants who only knew that some Mahatma had come to help them and was now in trouble, completely surrounded the courthouse. You can just feel it. This was the beginning of their liberation from the fear of the British. In court, Gandhi pleads guilty, but he explains his reasoning in this incredibly profound way. He tells the judge he's caught in a conflict of duties. See, on one hand, he doesn't want to be a lawbreaker, but on the other, he feels he has to follow a higher law, the voice of his own conscience, to serve the people he came to help. Then Gandhi asks the prominent lawyers with him, "So what will you do if they send me to jail?" At first, they're like, we'll go home. But after they talk it over, they come back with a totally new resolve. They realize if this total stranger is willing to go to prison for their peasants, it would be a shameful desertion for them to just leave. They decided they would follow him to jail. The very moment the lawyers make that pledge, Gandhi exclaims, "The Battle of Champaran is won." And you have to understand, for him, this was the real victory. It wasn't about a court ruling. It was about unity, courage, and the fact that these influential men were now willing to sacrifice for the cause. The government was completely baffled. They saw the thousands of peasants, they saw the support from the lawyers, and they just backed down. The provincial governor ordered the local magistrate to drop the case. And just like that, for the first time in modern India, civil disobedience had won. But for Gandhi, winning the case was really just the start. The ultimate goal wasn't just about getting a refund for the peasants. It was about teaching a lesson that would last a lifetime. So, an official inquiry was set up. Faced with a mountain of evidence, the landlords agreed to pay refunds. Gandhi demanded 50%, they offered 25%. And then, to everyone's surprise, Gandhi accepted their offer. Why? Because the amount of money was way less important than the principle. For the very first time, the landlords were forced to surrender not just their money, but their prestige. Their power was broken. And Gandhi's politics were never just abstract ideas. They were always tied to the daily lives of actual human beings. He stayed in Champaran for almost a whole year, organizing volunteers to open schools, teach basic sanitation, and improve health conditions, tackling the really deep fundamental problems he saw all around him. Near the end of his time there, a situation came up that let Gandhi teach his final and maybe most important lesson. His lawyer friends had an idea. They wanted Charles Freer Andrews, a supportive Englishman who was a devoted follower of Gandhi, to stay and help them. They thought, hey, having an Englishman on our side would be a huge advantage. But Gandhi was vehemently against it. He told them, "This shows the weakness of your heart." He explained that looking for a prop in an Englishman, even a friendly one, was a mistake. The cause was just, and they had to learn to rely on themselves to win the battle. The fight for India's freedom couldn't be won by leaning on others. It could only be won by Indians standing on their own 2 feet. And that right there was the ultimate lesson of Champaran, a lesson in self-reliance.